Okay, it's time for your 4-2 lesson. Make sure in your packet you find the 4-2 Reading to Learn. When you see it on the screen, you're not going to be able to see the title, so make sure it says 4-2 Reading to Learn. We're going to fill in some notes together. This is about powers and exponents. You've solved exponents, so that part is a review. We're going to add on to the powers and the exponents by doing negatives, and we're going to have variables included in them. So we're looking at definitions first, and the first definition is the base, and the base is the number being multiplied. Okay. So in 2 to the 4th power, the 2 is the base. The exponent's the number that tells how many times the base is being used as a factor. Tells how many times the base is used as a factor. All right, not the most legible, but you can pause if you need to and catch up on your writing. All right, so 2 to the 4th power means that the 2 is being used as a factor 4 times. Not 2 times 4, but 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. All right, all of that is review. All right, so a power itself is just the number that can be expressed using an exponent. So that 2 to the 4th power is actually a power. It's called a power. Number that can be expressed as, using an exponent. Okay, so 2 to the 4th, is a power. Okay. Standard form is when you actually solve it. So standard form would be the answer after you figure out the power. So a number that contains no exponents would be in standard form. Number that contains no exponents. So when you do 3 to the 5th power, using your calculator in the classroom, you can use your calculator. You will punch in 3. There's a caret button that you'll push, and then a 5, and you will get 243. For larger powers, you'll be able to use your calculators, but for easier powers, there will be cases where you won't use your calculator. So when you do use your calculator, you know to make a power, you type in the base first. The little caret button you'll see on your calculator will raise the next number to a power, so that'd be to the 5th power, and you would get 243. Otherwise, if you have no calculator, you're multiplying 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Okay? Expanded form. So here's the newer part. Expanded form, not difficult. You've done this when you were in elementary school. When you wrote out a number like 243, you'd put 200 plus 40 plus 3. So you've done expanded form, but now we're going to do expanded form using exponents instead. So you've advanced up just a little bit. So expanded form uses place value in exponents. Uses place value and exponents. Okay, so we'll do 2,695 rather. Now, when you were in elementary school, that would have been 2,000 plus 600 plus 90 plus 5, right? You remember doing that. Now we're going to take each place value and we're going to turn it into an exponent. So instead of 2,000, that's the same as 2 times 1,000. But instead of writing 1,000, we're going to write 1,000 as an exponent. So 1,000 would be 10 to the 3rd power. okay, oops, plus, then we have 6 times 100. 100 would be shown as 10 to the second power, plus, turn 90 into 9 times 10, right? 10 would be to the first power, because it's just 110. Now, the last one, the ones place, would be 5 times 10 to the 0 power, because anything to the 0 power is 1. You might want to write that up there. That should be review. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So if you have 4 to the 0 power, it's 1. If you have 100 to the 0 power, it's 1. Okay, so that's a little side note. So when you are multiplying 5, you're doing 5 times 1. So to get 1 as a power, it would be 10 to the 0 power. All of these are powers with a base of 10. Okay, because you're doing hundreds, thousands, tens, ones. All right. So a couple of examples. Turning your expressions into an exponent, you just count how many times 4 is used as a factor. So the base is 4, and it is used 4 times as a factor. You do the same thing with variables. The only difference is instead of a number as a base, you're going to have a variable as a base. So if x is my base 1, 2, 3 times, I have x to the third times 1, 2 y's, y to the second. Okay. Then I've got negatives. The negatives are important because you have 2 different answers you can get, and I'll write that down below after. If you see that it has parentheses around it, you must keep the parentheses around it. And again, I will show you in a minute why that's the case. So this one would be 3 2's that are in parentheses. There's 3 of them, so you multiply it 3 times, the power is 3. The 5 is just rewritten. Okay, you don't need to put a power of 1 next to it because we don't write regular numbers with a power of 1 usually. And then this is times r, and there are 2 of them, so to the second power, and then times m to the third power. You don't need to have a dot in between any of them, okay? Or if you put 5 times r squared times m to the third power, that's okay as well, all right? But you don't need it. All right, so the number 3 times 10 to the third plus 5 times 10 to the second plus 0 times 10 to the 1 plus 2 times 10 to the 0 is written in expanded form. And then notice this matches. The 3 times 10 to the third is 3,000, right? The 5 times 10 to the second is 5 times 100, or 500. 0 times 10 to the first would be 0 times 10, so there's 0 in the tens column. You do need to put, if there's a 0, you do need to put the multiplication problem to show that place value. You can't skip any place values. And then the 2 is the 2 times 10 to the 0. So this number here, though, is written in standard form. Okay? All right, so helping you remember. We're going to skip over that and just add some stuff on the bottom or at the top, wherever you want to write it. I was talking before about the negatives, and I want to show you the difference between a negative with an exponent and a negative, or I'm sorry, not a negative exponent with parentheses versus one without parentheses. If the exponent's on the outside of the parentheses, then what it's saying is everything inside the parentheses is to be used as a factor. So inside the parentheses is a negative 2, which means you're using it 4 times. Okay? When you multiply these, negative 2 and negative 2 is 4, negative 2 and negative 2 is 4, you'll get 16. The difference here is whatever the exponent is next to is what's raised to a power. So only the 2 is being raised to a power. The negative stays out front. So now you have the negative, and then you have 4 2's. You have the negative, and 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. The negative stays out in front, so there's a difference. You got a positive when you had the parentheses because you are multiplying, because they're in the parentheses, you're multiplying the negative number 4 times. Here, if there's no parentheses, it will see it as 2 raised to the 4th power, but the negative is not part of that. So it says it's the opposite of 2 to the fourth power, which would be negative 16. Okay? So make sure you have your notes with you tomorrow. Come in with those. We will go over all of your questions that you have. Maybe try a couple of other examples if we need them, and then we will start our homework.